Hello, and welcome to this tutorial where I'm going to show you how to use gradients more effectively in Illustrator. The gradient that you first have to understand is creating the illusion of light passing over a surface. As you can see from this quick example that I've done, it creates the illusion of light passing over a surface. Light starting here, and as light is farther away and doesn't get to a surface, it starts getting darker. Most often I see people that are using Illustrator for the first time or unfamiliar with how the gradient tool works more effectively. They wind up using the gradient tool in a manner where they're just adding colors to the gradient and not understanding how the gradient actually works. If you open up the gradient palette, you'll see that there's types of gradients that you can use. First, there's linear, which is a line, or radial, which is a circle. And I can adjust the gradient as well, where I can adjust how much shadow is affected or how much light is affected. I can also adjust the colors that I use as well. And this is where I see a lot of people who are unfamiliar with the finesse of the gradient tool and its effectiveness make common mistakes by combining any color without understanding how color works. Very basically, if I change the light end to a color that's opposite of the spectrum or nowhere near in the spectrum as black, you'll see it starts getting muddy in the middle. In painting terms, this is referred to as muted colors. Ideally, you don't want to have muted colors in your gradients. You can see it more obviously when you start combining cool colors with warm colors. It starts to blend nicely, but when it starts getting into the middle, it becomes 50% of the red and 50% of the green and creates this muted, kind of washed out color. A more effective gradient is creating a gradient that is light passing over a surface. So if I were to change this high end to a light green and the shadow end to a really darker green, then you can see I'm creating a gradient that goes across a surface that would make sense of light passing over. Where light hits it at the focal point, it's a very light green, but as it recedes, it gets darker. I can double click on my dark swatch, and if I want to, I can darken the color up of green even more to create even more of an illusion of light passing over a surface. We use this effect a lot in packaging designs with our text. So I'm going to select my text. I'm going to select it with this gradient that I've chosen. And when you make a gradient, you can actually put it into your swatches to use later if you like. I'm going to keep it linear right now, but I'm going to change the angle to -90 degrees so that the shadow appears at the bottom and rises to light up at the top, similar to a sunset. I like this gradient, so I'm just going to then click on the gradient itself, the gradient swatch. The little plus line shows up, and I'm going to drag it into my swatches palette, where it adds it for me to use later if I like. So I want to use that gradient again. I'm going to click on it. I'll just change it again to 90 degrees. And now I can use the gradient consistently each and every time. I can continue to adjust the light and shadow of the gradient if I like. But it creates the illusion of light passing over a surface, and you'll notice that there are no muddy colors in the middle. This is how we use gradient tool the gradient tool effectively in Illustrator.